Call the member for Maroochydore.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Well, we don't have a banana republic in Queensland. We have a pineapple republic. Complete disregard for proper democratic processes. And I support my colleague, the Leader of Opposition Business and the member for Kawana. And a little lesson for some of the members who smirk across the chamber, who've come in here with the government's majority and they think this parliament is their plaything. Well, it shouldn't be. This place is for all elected members to represent all seats in Queensland, all 93 seats. And it shouldn't be the loudest or the most prolific or the most numerous side of government or parliament that gets to speak. It should be all members having an equal right to speak. And what this Labor government has done in the last 5 years by gutting the rules, by stripping away the right of members to be able to speak appropriately on bills, by gagging legislation like no other parliament has seen in the history of this parliament, has been an absolute disgrace. Has been a disgrace. And there was more of that smirking in the last term, and we've seen that arrogance continue on. But now, as we know, there are rushed pieces of legislation coming into this House to address that, because when you muck up the laws, strip away the scrutiny, put the sausage machine in and put laws in that haven't gone through a due process and appropriate scrutiny, you get stuff wrong. Things are mucked up. And we've seen just that recently with the situation with local government laws, which are now, due to urgency legislation, about to be rushed through this House to fix up the mess that Labor created. And while we can't talk about the detail of the legislation, we can talk about the process. And it's absolutely relevant to what we're talking about here, with the way this government, this arrogant Labor government, is now taking another step to abuse the processes. We must have the opportunity for all members, whether they're Labor or LNP or the crossbenchers, to have the opportunity to speak and to scrutinise legislation, rather than to see this situation where there has been a gagging of legislation and then amendments slipped in on completely different matters or completely unconsulted upon matters into legislation that is causing not only angst but just an absolute disgraceful mess and has to be rectified now by legislation. How many other aspects will we see this government do the same thing? These Trojan laws, without the appropriate scrutiny of this parliament. Now, it might bore Labor members who don't like to listen to different voices. It might bore them to not listen to different voices. But Queenslanders have cast their vote for a range of parties, a range of people, and those voices have a right to be heard in this parliament. They're not always in the majority, but they have a right to be heard. They have a right to be heard. And that's why this practice of gagging legislation in an unprecedented way in the history of parliament has to be stopped. That's why we do have to have opportunity for appropriate debates to take place. Now, we've seen a government that says, oh, it's about family-friendly hours, and then they chuck in their own emergency motions that haven't been on the table at any time that they want, because as a government they have the numbers to do that. And yet then at the other end they gag legislation that should have a due process, to be scrutinised, and have stripped away the majority of scrutiny in consideration and detail in this parliament. Now, the committee stages were never meant, that's the committees of the parliament, were never meant to supplant and replace the consideration and detail in this parliament. They were never meant to do that. But that's what's happened. And that is another reason why I believe that we need to hold this government to account. Now, it might bore people who think, oh, that's just parliamentary rules, but it matters. Democracy matters. The opportunity to scrutinise legislation matters. The opportunity to ask ministers questions in consideration and detail phase matters. And yet that has virtually been stopped because of the way that there's been abuse of these laws that put a deadline and a passing of legislation, often with additional amendments that have never seen the light of day or appropriate scrutiny, till they've been dropped in this House, sometimes only a matter of minutes, sometimes only a matter of hours before they pass into law and are then end up being on the statute books of Queensland. So yes, Queensland, it's not a banana republic, it's a pineapple republic with a fruit salad approach to democracy, and arrogance, a smuggery that comes by a government that's that believes it can do what it's like. When you've got a unicameral parliament, the nature of these parliaments, they do tend to have a very strong executive style, and it makes it even more important for the parliamentary process not to be subjugated to that abuse of numbers. It becomes even more important to respect the rights of all members to have the opportunity to speak in this place. And that is why I support the amendment that my colleague, the member for Kawana, has put forward as another opportunity for members in this House, certainly non-government members in particular, who have less opportunity to speak under the way that this government has moved and unfortunately abused the processes of this parliament. These things do matter. They do matter. And we've just seen that so starkly obvious with the abuses that have come to light that now see more rushed legislation coming through this House to fix up a mess, because this government, they can talk about democracy, but they can't manage their business. They can't organise to do things in an orderly way, and therefore you see these abuses now playing out with remedy legislation supposed to address what they mucked up. It is important that the scrutiny of this parliament allows the members to speak, allows them to have the opportunity to scrutinise legislation, allows them the opportunity to debate not just the government's agenda, but the voices and the issues that all Queenslanders want us to represent and put forward in this place.